One more thing. Ryan Nembhard is a problem, both for opposing teams and for the Mavericks roster situation. I'll tell you why today is Locked On Mavs. One more thing.
I'm not a doctor, so.
That's it. It's me versus the machines.
I don't know.
Satnam change.
Nice penetrating thrust to the middle.
Hot man, the hot player.
Wait. One more thing.
Fired up.
Yeah, welcome. You're still locked on to the Dallas Mavericks, your team every day. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member covering the Mavs for 10 years. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. It's one more thing, a bonus episode of Locked On Mavs. If you missed the post game, me and Slightly did the post game versus the Rockets. Go listen to that show. But today, I got to talk about Ryan Nembhard because he's a problem. He is a problem for the Dallas Mavericks. He's a problem for other players. And he's other opposing players. He's making the Dallas Mavericks good in a way. But he's a two-way guy. He's going to run out of games. And I want to talk about that whole situation, talk about what other players say about Ryan Nembhard, and then a couple other random things about the Mavs versus Rockets game. So let's get into that. Let's start here. Marc Stein put out this story about Ryan Nembhard and basically breaking down some of the keys to everything. And the one thing that he reported in this story is that league sources tell the Stein line that the Mavericks have already committed to converting Nembhard to a standard contract as soon as they can. And they need to. This is a wild situation right now that the Mavs have kind of seen a couple times before, actually. Kind of with Yogi Ferrell, kind of with some other players here and there. But Ryan Nembhard bursts onto the scene. He started the last 6 games for the Mavericks. The Mavs are 4-2. He's averaging 27 minutes a game, 15 points, shooting 64% from the field, 68% from 3, which is wild. 7 assists, 1.3 turnovers. Like, he is good. Ryan Nembhard is on the Mavericks, is making things work and making things happen. Other players on the Mavericks are raving about Ryan Nembhard. PJ Washington said this about him. He's controlling the pace, making sure everybody gets their touches, making sure everybody feels involved, and just finding everybody as well. He knows how to read the defense, and he takes whatever they give us. Brandon Williams said, Ryan's nice, ain't gonna lie, which is a hilarious quote. Ryan's nice, ain't gonna lie. Everybody on our team loves playing with him. And you can tell this from everybody that is on the team. They love playing with Ryan Nembhard because he's going to get them the ball. He's going to find them in those situations. The Mavs desperately needed a guy like that, and Ryan Nembhard has burst onto the scene. This undrafted 5'11" and or so guard that the Mavs didn't have at the beginning, barely played at the beginning of the season, then had this knee sprain, so he was out for a little while, and now he's burst onto the scene. So a lot of people have been asking, well, where'd this guy come from? Well, he was out for a little bit. He was undrafted, and Marc Stein breaks down some of the things like in the draft process, and I'll go through that in a little bit later. But the problem the Mavericks have right now is he's on a two-way. He can play like 32 more games for the Mavericks on a two-way contract if the Mavs want to do that. But then they have to make him a standard contract if they wanted to play more. I'm sure they wanted to play more, and they want to keep him long term because he becomes a restricted free agent if they don't come up with some kind of deal. Here's the thing that Stein points out in this piece. They don't have the financial wiggle room under the second apron of the league's luxury tax system to do so until early January as their roster stands. But that's not the only challenge they face. If Nembhard keeps playing like this, there will undoubtedly be strong interest in him as a restricted free agent this summer. So if they don't make him a standard contract by the end of this year, he becomes a restricted free agent. Other teams are going to be interested in that. They're going to drive up the price or sign it to an offer sheet, whatever. Dallas would need to create financial flexibility that allows it to present a contract sufficiently attractive to convince Nembhard to sign an in-season deal. So now the Mavs have this situation. They don't have a GM either, which is the one thing. They got 2 guys working, Matt Riccardi and Michael Finley, that definitely have the Mavs' best interest at heart, and so I'm not worried about that at all. They've done the job before. Riccardi's been around for a little while. Michael Finley obviously has been with the organization for a long time. I've worked in front offices, and so I don't think that this is an issue in terms of, we got this incompetent front office. They don't know what they're doing. But it is a problem the Mavericks do have to figure out. The Mavs have run into some of these issues with running up against the second apron, and they cannot go above the second apron because they're locked there because of the D'Angelo Russell deal. If they hadn't signed D'Angelo Russell, I'm pretty sure they could have just gone ahead of it. So that's definitely a butterfly effect we can go back and look at. But I think it made sense for them to sign somebody like that, sign D'Angelo Russell to that deal. But now Ryan Nembhard is a problem. He's a problem for other teams, and he's a problem for the Mavericks. The Mavs will have to solve this. It will be a while before the Mavs have to solve this, though. I don't think this is going to be an issue in any way. I think the Mavs will figure this out. I think the Mavs will figure out how to get him to that contract, but it is something that they're looking at. And the fact that the Mavs are looking at this already, that Nembhard has started the last 6 games, that he's playing like a starter. He didn't close against the Rockets, but he closed against the Thunder. He closed against some other team. He closed against the Nuggets. He's closed in some of these games. He started some of these games. I think that is significant. He's 5th on the team in minutes in the last 6 games. And that's significant to me. That he has burst onto the scene and now he's like, I'm here and he's part of this team. And now you're like, all right, when Kyrie comes back, Nembhard and Brandon Williams are going to be fighting for minutes. And I think Ryan Nembhard's winning that battle right now. Wild. We got to watch the shooting. That's something to keep watching. I mean, what did I say? He's shooting 68% on threes. He's, 2.5 out of 3.7 out of that's what he's averaging over the last 6 games. That's definitely something to watch. But you can tell. You hear from the players. You heard from Anthony Davis. You heard from the quote I said about PJ Washington, the quote from Brandon Williams. Brandon Williams saying, Ryan's nice, I ain't going to lie. Is maybe the biggest compliment that an NBA player can get, right? Like, he's nice, ain't going to lie. That's awesome. That's an amazing quote. It's an interesting situation, but it's a good problem to have. But it is a problem that the Mavs do have to solve going forward. That's definitely something to watch. But it's not something I'm sitting here like, all right, I'm counting down the days to figure out if Ryan Nembhard can play. We probably will be counting down the days until the end of his 2-way contract, unless the Mavericks come up with some kind of solution before then. But I kind of think the Mavericks will come up with a solution before then. Or they could wait until the final day and then just like, all right, now we figured it out. But there will have to be some kind of move, and I'm fascinated to see what it is because I don't think they can wave and stretch anymore. I think that deadline is done, so they can't just do the same thing they did with Omax to Dante Exum or something like that. A lot of people on the text line have asked me, why don't they just waive Dante Exum? That doesn't do any good to you. You still have his contract still on the books. The roster spot would technically be open, but they don't have any money to sign anybody else into that roster spot. So the Mavs have a situation they got to figure out. It's small small minutia cap situation stuff that I think that this front office can figure out. But it is a kind of a problem, and I think that that's interesting, and it's a good problem to have for the Mavericks. Coming up, the Mavericks targeted Ryan Nembhard and made sure that they drafted it. They made sure that nobody drafted him, basically. And Anthony Davis said something about Cooper Flagg that I was cracking up about. We'll talk about that and more. Locked On Mavs continues coming up. Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook, all kinds of props and odd things that you can use to get in on the action. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. Very true. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time, trying to figure out, all right, I bet this is going to happen. How many times have you said that? I've definitely said that. All right, I bet they hit this kick. No way they make this kick. All right, touchdown right here. I've done that so many times. Like, all right, touchdown right here. You can bet on it. You can go and actually make some money off of that intuition. Live betting is the best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, and momentum flips after a turnover. So if you want to be right in the middle of the NFL action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Also brought to you by DoorDash. DoorDash, you can get anything delivered. So, like pretty much anything delivered with DoorDash. You could be in your bag all season long. The season is heating up, and the Dallas Mavericks are heating up right now. The DoorDash has a way for fans to be in their bag the whole way through, whether you're watching the highlights, the tunnel fits, or you're just your favorite player. DoorDash makes the entire season more fun because every player has their bag. With DoorDash, fans have one too. DoorDash keeps your snacks stocked, your gear fresh, and your watch party vibes absolutely on point. You know, you're sitting there and you're like, man, after a good Mavs win, like you just want, I feel like I come home and I'm like, I want to eat something. You know, like you got extra energy, you got some juice. You can get something delivered with DoorDash from tip off to overtime. Stay in your bag and order DoorDash. Get snacks, drinks, gear, whatever you want, whatever gets you through the season, delivered right to your door. DoorDash in your bag all season long.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
It's the One More Thing, a bonus episode of Locked On Mavs. Check out the post-game show with me and Slightly if you missed that one. Check the QR code, links in the description for different ways to follow the show, including the text line that I talked about. Any rumor that we see, we'll text it right to you. Any news, pregame text I send to everybody about everything that you need to know about the game, injury reports, injury updates, all that stuff we send on the text line. So subscribe to that. All right, guys, let's get into this part in Stein's story. And again, subscribe to Stein's Substack. Substack. I made it through once. Very interesting part of this, where the Mavs, he said that Nico Harrison and his crew had targeted, we want to get Flagg and we want to get Nembhard. If we can get Flagg and Nembhard out of this draft, that's a home run for us. So we love that. And so he sent Matt Riccardi out, and Matt Riccardi, who is now the Mavs, interim GM with Michael Finley, went and talked to Ryan Nembhard's agent. And he said early in the process, more than once, he assured Ryan Nembhard's agent that a two-way contract would definitely be waiting for him in Dallas if no one drafted him. And they made that like assurance. And that happens all the time. We've heard that so many different times from so many different players, so many different agents. Oh, we got a promise. We got this assurance, whatever. It's always reported. It's never like said. I don't know if it's tampering or whatever. It probably is. But they made that assurance that they were gonna draft him, or that they were gonna sign him to a two-way contract. He would have that guaranteed. And that's better than a non-guaranteed deal, I think. And so league sources told Marc Stein it was the only ironclad promise of a two-way contract that Nembhard received from anybody. And so even the teams that had a draft pick in the 50s, Stein also said that teams did emerge with interest in selecting Nembhard. He certainly could have been drafted in those late stages of the second round, but Ryan Nembhard's agent was like, nobody else has promised anything except for the Dallas Mavericks. What's the point of us getting drafted 55 and getting a non-guaranteed deal or something like that? Or, whatever. And instead, we could go to the Mavericks, get a two-way deal, and that one's guaranteed to a degree. And then there's some thought that the Mavericks could have a role there. And so, but then the Mavericks are on their side of things. The Mavericks, according to Stein, kept swinging and missing in their attempts to acquire second-round picks. So the Mavericks are trying to get him. That Nembhard is telling, Nembhard's agent is telling other teams, like, hey, we don't care. We got this promise from the Mavericks. And I think that whole process is fascinating. But it's these two entities, the Mavericks and Nembhard and his agent, that were on a collision course together, and it absolutely worked out. And now we're seeing it work out on the court. Mavericks took a risk on a guy in Nembhard because of his size and all that. It's one of the reasons why he wouldn't go in like the first round, or be on, that somebody else would take a chance on him. And it's paying off for the Mavericks right now. I think that's incredible. You got to give Nico credit. Sometimes they do good things. Not anymore. Okay. Jason Kidd said something after the game, and AD said something about Flagg that I'll talk about. But Jason Kidd was asked, what are you guys going to do with your time off? This is something I think that we need to talk about a little bit here. The Mavs played on Saturday, and now Sunday the 7th, they're off. Monday the 8th, they're off. Tuesday the 9th, they're off. Wednesday the 10th, they're off. Thursday the 11th, they're off. And Friday the 12th, they play at home against the Nets. Then they're off 2 more days, and they play at the Jazz. They basically have this entire week, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days. Well, they'll probably be home. That's huge. That doesn't happen very often. There's only one game in there. And that's because of the NBA Cup and all that's happening in Vegas. But Jason Kidd said, what are you guys going to do? He said, we have a lot of practice time before Friday. And I think that's something that's very rare. The Mavs may have like a random mini camp, like a mini training camp, basically, over this next week. And I think that's something that we could see some real benefits from with the Mavericks. Jason Kidd and PJ Washington were asked about Anthony Davis's 2-point game and how he bounced back from it after the Rockets game. And they both said the words, "It happens." And I just found that interesting. That's all I'm going to say about that. Anthony Davis was asked about Cooper Flagg. He said some glowing things about Cooper Flagg. And then he said one thing that I found hilarious. He said, Cooper Flagg is a target on his back. They're going to put the toughest wing defender on him to try and pressure him. He's trying to figure out how to play against the pressure and in his spots with the floor, and he's making big plays. Anthony Davis has taken a vested interest in Cooper Flagg. And during this game against the Rockets, Anthony Davis said, I got onto him about rebounding. He had let a couple of rebounds go. He only had 5. And he said that Cooper Flagg looked over at him and said, hey, you only have 5 too. And Anthony Davis laughed afterwards, and he said, I had no excuse that I could give him. And then he said, but Cooper Flagg wants to be accountable. He wants to be great. And to hear that Anthony Davis was trying to, mentor and push Cooper Flagg, and that Cooper Flagg is receiving that, wants to be accountable, wants to be great. It's all the stuff we've ever heard about Cooper Flagg, that he wants to be great. He wants to be coached, all that. But to hear a specific instance of it, to hear that it's still the case, to hear even after some success in the NBA, after he's doing things that no 18-year-old has done, that only LeBron as an 18-year-old has done, that he's still, all right, I'm going to be accountable. I want to be accountable in things like rebounding and things like defense and things like the shots he's trying to take. Getting pressured by these defenders. I think that mentoring from Anthony Davis, the accountability of Cooper Flagg, and the desire from Cooper Flagg is what's going to send him to the next level. That's what's going to make him an all-star eventually, make him an all-NBA player eventually. And that's something that I want to just keep hearing stories like this, because you want to hear that he still has that hunger to get better, because if he does, then that's what keeps him on the trajectory. Growth is not always linear, but if you keep pushing, eventually it'll go up, right? Love that. That was a great story. You only have 5 rebounds too. AD finished with 8 rebounds, so that worked out for him in that story. But you only have 5 rebounds too. There you go. That's some stuff after the game. That's the Ryan Nembhard talk. Guys, thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs. We got all kinds of stuff coming up. I think we're going to do a 3-man weave with me and Isaac and Slightly, and just like go for an hour or so and talk about this season and everything like that. So stick around with us. Subscribe wherever you're listening, watching this. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs. One more thing.
Peace out.